Welcome back to the Angry Man Podcast. I got a special guest in the building, King Kam Walker, right out of the A, currently living in Miami, Florida. What's going on with you, fam?
Not much, man. How you been?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Welcome to the platform. I'm glad to have you on, specifically
Thanks for having
because
me.
number one, you out of the A. You know what I'm saying? I'm currently residing in the A. And right now, you in my home state of Florida, Miami, Florida. You know, my boys, my partner's out of Orlando. I'm from Orlando as well. So
Mhm.
wanted to get you on the platform, man, to see what's going on with you. So
Appreciate you.
you got a unique story, man, because number one, you well accomplished. If I'm not mistaken, you were what, 76 and 23, your amateur record?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and well accomplished in the state of Florida in terms of just overall amateur pedigree. But not only that, well accomplished in college and thereafter. If I'm not mistaken, not only do you have a
hmm
bachelor's degree, but you have a master's degree as well, right?
Yes, sir.
Tell me a little bit about that. What made you go down that path?
Honestly, I applied for my master's last minute. It was one of those
Yeah.
things I was like, I just don't feel like going back home. But I'm glad I got it. Me and all my friends, we started freshman year together, so we all got the same bachelor's and masters. We took the same courses, so it kind of helped me a lot. Being that all my peers, I made sure we all sports administration, business and stuff like that. So it was easy to make sure I stayed on task with stuff. Oh Lord, what happened? I'm
Oh, you
sorry about
good?
that.
No, you good? Oh, you on mute. You
It's
on mute. I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
okay. I got my bachelor's in sports administration, and
Yep.
obviously my master's. I have a master's in business administration.
Okay.
Um, so with the my master's, we're looking forward to starting my own promotion company, things like that. Hopefully, I can start signing fighters underneath me. Um, I made sure school was still tied into boxing. Everything I want to do in life is still tied back to the sport. Um, so it keeps me working hard, keeps me with a goal, something to do.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. That's awesome right there. Because you don't typically hear that. And I think the only other fighter that I've heard of that has a bachelor's degree, if I'm not mistaken, maybe like Chris Algieri. I think is the only fighter
hmm
I've heard of that has a bachelor's degree.
I know the Klitschko brothers, they're doctors.
Oh yeah,
So
that's
them
right.
two,
That's right.
yeah, the Klitschko's are doctors, Algieri. Um, I'm not sure if Victor Ortiz finished his because I know he was what at Kansas when he fought Floyd,
Mhm.
the Jayhawks. So I'm not
Yeah,
sure if he
yeah, yeah.
finished or, but I know he was pursuing classes while he was still fighting.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. You got the right game plan already in mind. So right now, you are fighting at
hmm
140 pounds, right?
Yes,
5
sir.
and 0.
Yes, sir.
So what's the plan, man? What's the overall plan? Like how you guys are moving in the correct way. What's the thoughts? Like what's the next move?
So right now we're just looking at, expanding. If the right deal comes our way, then most definitely looking at that. I want to do something back home in the hometown of Atlanta. So we're hearing from venues and things like that, planning that out, seeing what fighters we can potentially get on the card, things like that, what stars we can get there. Of course, we got to have B Norn in the house.
Yeah.
Um, so, we're just planning all that out. If everything lines up, hopefully we can get it done, maybe a summer show. If not, I want to say like New Year's Eve. I can bring it in New Year's Eve. That'd be dope in the city, right before the ball drop or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean the peach drop, so that'd be dope. So right now we're just hearing out everything, finding the best prices, people to partner with, things like that. If I do sign with the company, then I still have to make sure that's implemented into my contract.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, like let's talk about who you are as a fighter and your style. Cause I don't even think like when I got the opportunity to watch some of your fights,
hmm
you 6'1", dog. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
6'1".
6'1" at 140. So what kind of style do you have and what kind of problems do you present to anybody at 140? Because there's a lot of players there at 140 and at 6'1", I would imagine you
hmm
would present a lot of problems. Tell us about your style.
Honestly, I describe myself pretty much as a boxer puncher. In the amateurs, I was more so the counter puncher, slick fighter. But now, in the pros, it's a lot slower when you got to sit on your punches more. So now I'm developing that strength, to put people down. At 6'1", I'm just a problem.
Yeah.
That's just the biggest way I can say I'm a problem. I think the closest person to my height at that weight class, unless he moved up, was Keyshawn Davis' brother Kelvin. I think
Yeah.
he's right at like 6 foot or 6'1". Um, but other than that, we're pretty much freaks in nature. And I know in the amateurs, everybody had the same game plan fighting me. Either you got to just rush in and put your head down and rush in, or you gonna try to fight me from the outside. And the outside, I'm just gonna pop shot you all night. So that's you make my job simple. If you want to rush in, like I said, I'm a boxer puncher. I was a boxer before anything, so I know how to set traps, angles, everything like that. So it's just playing into my wheelhouse, and it kind of gives you the mental advantage, being that it's only two ways people can fight you.
Yeah.
So I come into the ring knowing half your game plan already.
Right.
So it's a unique advantage.
Yeah, I bet it is at 140, man. I was watching you fight. I think it was your last fight, or maybe it was two fights ago, and I was like, man, he looks really rangy. And then that's when I started to look at your box rec, and I said, man, at 6'1", first name that popped into my mind was Tommy Hitman Hearns, and I would
Uh huh.
imagine you get that type of comparison. Is that a fair statement, or?
Oh, yes, sir. So when I first came to Miami, I had the chance to speak to him and his son, and he pretty much gave me some game and everything like that. So I just took it and ran with it.
Yeah.
Um, I still send him some of my videos from my fights and things like that, just to make sure, like, hey, champ, I'm doing it right. I'm sending that right hand the right way. He still critiques me and teaches me things. So he's a blessing to have too.
Cool. So let me ask you this. So you're originally from Atlanta. How long you been
hmm
in Florida?
I've been in Florida since I think me and my dad moved to Jacksonville maybe 2011,
Okay.
and then I graduated high school 2018, and then I came to Miami. He went back to Atlanta.
Okay. So what took you down? What took you all down to Florida, and then ultimately, what took you down to Miami?
He just wanted to change the scenery, change the pace. Jacksonville was a lot slower than Atlanta, of course. So, you know, it was just, I guess, it was more hands on with me,
Yeah.
being that we're out of the hustle and bustle of the city. So it was a blessing. I love Jacksonville. That's like my second home. That is my second home. And then ultimately, when I came to Miami, I started applying for colleges. I got accepted into Troy, Valdosta State, Morehouse. LSU was ultimately my dream school,
Yeah.
and I had to pull some strings there because they was like, well, it's a competitive school to get into.
Yeah.
So I didn't have horrible grades, but I didn't have the best grades. I was sitting right around like a 3.3 high school GPA and things like that. Test scores were good, but it was just ultimately competitive to get there. So I had to pull some
Yeah.
strings. I was like, well, I'm on Team USA, this, that, and the third.
Yeah.
So I had to pull out that trick. And then what school doesn't want that Team USA alumni? So I got accepted there. And then Pops had to break the news to me. He was just like, well, what are you going to do there? And I was like, what do you mean? I'm going to school. He was like, well, you're in Baton Rouge. You're not in New Orleans. So what else are you going to do once you leave campus? And like, once he put that in my head, like, okay, it's not really too much to do down here besides go to school. Unless New Orleans is what, an hour away, something like that.
Yeah.
So I was like, and I started looking at Miami. I was like, well, it's hard to beat spring break in Miami. I got good weather, this, that, and that. I was like, okay, so I've just been here ever since.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So let me ask you some questions. Is this currently going on in the sport of boxing? I know you.
hmm
I know you connected with B Norman and that whole
Yeah,
squad.
that's fine.
Yeah. So what you think about the whole situation between him and Boots? I've heard Boots talking a lot about
hmm
Brian Norman. I think it's a great fight. I would love to
Great
see the
fight.
fight. I hear a lot of people think that that's a fight that, Boots automatically wins. I do not agree with that. I think that is a highly competitive fight. What's your thoughts on that?
I believe everything Boots does, and not to discredit, he's a great talented fighter, but I think everything Boots does, it looks great because we see it from the outside looking in that he's more athletic
Hmm.
than certain fighters. Foot speed, hand speed, which is of course use their advantages. I'm not gonna knock him on that, but I just feel like somebody that's the same athletic level is gonna bring out the best in both fighters.
Yeah.
Um, because I know B can cut the ring off, hand speed, reflex and things like that. So I think it's gonna bring the best out of both fighters. But we can't talk too much on it because I know B has this upcoming fight with the gentleman in Japan. They just
Yeah.
announced.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
he's focused on that. And then Boots has the mandatory the WBA just ordered. And then after that,
Yeah.
he has to fight the winner out of Rolly and Ryan. So hopefully the fight happens, but it might be one of those Pacquiao Mayweather situations where it might take years to develop, or who knows? Boots might move up, or he might relinquish the WBA if he doesn't want to do the mandatory. So it just depends. But I think it'd be a great fight, a better fight than what people are giving him credit for. And I understand B's the youngest champion in boxing, so people, they're knocking him for his age and things like that and his experience. But he grew up in the game. Same thing with Boots; they grew up in the game, so the age pretty much doesn't matter. It's just your experience and your skills at that point.
Yeah, I like how you broke that down there. I don't think people actually understand all the things that are currently going on in the sport. And you mentioned all of the, you know, he having the opportunity or having the mandate to face his WBA mandatory and then having to face maybe
Hmm.
the Ryan Roley winner and all that stuff. So
Right.
all that stuff plays into it and it might not happen when we want it to happen.